One. Well, what a week in AEW it has been. The fallout from Dynasty. Once again, I can kind of say I can eat some humble pie, so to speak. We'll get into that though in a minute on the Hitting the Turnbuckle podcast with me, your host, Adam Cousins. And of course, it wouldn't be an AEW review without my good friend across the pond. Now, from the Follow Revolution, Honor the Elite is back as well. We'll get into that in a bit more detail. But my man Gary Joe is back from the States. My man, how are you from the fallout of what was an incredible Dynasty pay-per-view?
Let me tell you, that is going to be a great strong point of our discussion today. It was quite the pay-per-view, I will say that. I did not expect it to be over 5 hours. But it's just something about AEW pay-per-views, man. Honestly, people may have, their opinion saying, "Well, I'm always dishing out $50+ This sucks." Pay-per-view buys were steady again. This pay-per-view, I think it was their third or second best or something like that since All In of last year. Whether the people like to chirp away, they know a good pay per view. I think so. Um, but yeah, when we dive into the pay per view a bit more, I was pretty satisfied from
Yeah,
bell
I
to
mean,
bell.
look,
So
I thought like from the most part, I mean AEW without a doubt, if anyone can have any issues with it, they always deliver on their pay-per-views. And look, I said at the start there about eating humble pie. Like, let's just get into this whole Death Rider situation, right? So we spoke about a month ago, and I was kind of like, I don't know where we thought this whole shit. We thought there was this whole bigger picture, and it was kind of dying away. But
mm,
it does seem as if there was a bigger picture to the Death Rider situation, most notably with the Young Bucks. So, those of you that don't know, the Young Bucks made their presence felt, so to speak, at Dynasty, costing Swerve Strickland the World Heavyweight Championship. In their words, obviously, to help Hangman Adam Page. Now, more on that in a minute, because I think there's a long mileage to go with Adam Page yet. But I think and look, me and you sat here and we both sat there and said, well, we're not quite sure about this. But you know what? Long term, thanks to our good friends at Cruising with Kayfabe, by the way, who did put this
mm,
whole storyline on the map. This
I
was
agree.
great long term storytelling from AEW right there at Dynasty, right?
If I could be honest, man, I was just like everybody else. Like, well, yep, this pay per view is officially sucks. Yet the Death Riders suck, and so on and so forth. Whatever thing that they want to throw, like a monkey wrench after monkey wrench, right? And I thought about it within just a few moments. And yeah, kudos to, Mongo and Emily over there because damn,
Mm.
they bring some sense to the table. Um, but yeah, that is exactly it. Like, this is where people, like, I mean, I even said in the post that a lot of people reached out to me for, said, thank you for this. I needed to hear this and I needed to read this. When you always say, well, they don't know how to tell a story. Well, this is the story dating back from last fall. And now the Young Bucks gave a reason this past Wednesday on Dynamite. And it's, you are really setting yourself up for, you need to really be patient on this one. And I
Yeah.
think this is what Tony is doing. And you know what? This might be a hot take, but I even said this on a post a couple days ago. I love the fact that AEW is not giving in. AEW is really wanting to prove
Yeah.
to the people that are really being faithful with the company. Listen, I can actually write a long-term storyline. This is
Mm.
what you want. If you can handle a 5 year bloodline storyline, you can handle almost a 1 year storyline. With the Death Riders and the like that's why I was cautiously optimistic too, with Swerve potentially winning the title.
Mm.
I'm like, okay, I don't think they're gonna necessarily put the title on Swerve on a Dynasty pay per view.
Yeah.
Their biggest show of the year potentially could be all in Texas.
Yeah.
So I think they're gonna treat this like their WrestleMania show this year. Um, So I think the one that should take it is Bruv. Um, I think he is a very deserving winner. Then that's when people are going to be like, well, that doesn't make sense because Adam Page and Swerve. I'm like, but this plants it more where who's the wild card on Wednesday? I think it's going to be Jack Perry. Um, there's just so much key elements that people just need to remember. Patience is key when it comes to storytelling. I'm loving this. Do I agree with the shenanigans pay per view after pay per view? No, it turns me off for sure. But I think that's what the Death Riders are doing. When Tony says, "Oh well, it's increasing our numbers, this and that," it's true. Like the Death Riders has been seeing multiple 1 million plus views on YouTube. Their numbers, if you want to get into that ratings chatter,
Yeah.
this past Wednesday they've seen a 60,000 plus increase in numbers, and I think that's where just people are just speaking, being upset because they were hopeful that Swerve would have won. And one last thing that I will say on that too is this is not the end of Swerve. He just signed a long-term 5-year deal with AEW. He's not going nowhere. There's other chances for him to get the title. So
Exactly. No, look, I think
sorry
I
if that
agree.
was long-winded, Adam.
No, no. Listen, I'm glad. I'm glad. Listen, for the fact from a big AEW fan to give us that that answer is great, and I really appreciate the long-winded answer because sometimes a lot of people they're quick to I think jump to a conclusion. Like myself personally, I was expecting Moxley to retain. I just didn't know how. I think I kind of said it to you a couple of weeks before that I felt that Adam Page would perhaps inadvertently cost Swerve. The champ is like an inadvertent, like he was meant to go for one of the Death Riders and he hit Swerve, blah blah blah. But the Young Bucks coming back was a welcome surprise, and
Mhm.
look, it bodes well. I mean, look, Tony Khan, what I like, and I agree with you, like there was a lot of negative reaction. There has been a lot of negative reaction online, maybe to the Death Riders. And look, I be quite honest, I was exactly the same. But I do say one thing, like ratings, Tony listens to the audience, but he also listens to the viewing audience. And there's a difference between the audience and the viewing audience, right? There's a viewing audience like you and I that watch every week, and I watch AEW every week, and as do you. And maybe you watch it live and I don't, but there's no difference in that. There's a time difference, folks, between the US and the UK, right? So I watch it the next day, which isn't a problem. It's just I get it the next day, and you watch it live. Um, but Tony sticking to his guns is a big thing, and I agree with it because like you've seen it so many times elsewhere where the fans have made their opinion known and perhaps without knowing the situation. And it's fair. Fans that watch it are entitled to their opinion. Fans that watch it, I might add, fans that
Mhm.
watch are entitled to their opinion, that fans that just watch shit on social media that perhaps are not they're entitled to opinion. So I agree. Look, I'm very big that Tony Khan is going the right way. He believes in it. And if the viewing figures are there and he's got hey, listen, he knows the viewing figures more than me, more than you, more than anybody else because he gets those figures, right? We get what we're told. He gets the paperwork which proves the numbers, right? So he knows what's working and what's not. And if he believes in something, he's got every right to carry on with that, whether we believe it or not. But anyway, let's concentrate on the other thing. There's been a bit of like an injury hit AEW recently. I think we're both agreeing
Mm.
that look, Pac's the most recent one. There's been a Hook. It depends on what you believe to what you read, and there was a little bit with Hook this week as well. I just kind of feel like they can't catch a break right now. Like if you remember way back last year, when you look
Mhm.
at the whole Devil storyline, it got hit with an injury to both MJF and Adam Cole, which kind of like threw the storyline out. Obviously we've got a few injuries in AEW right now, but I do believe that, and I'm sure that you agree that, like, with the roster that they've got, they've done very well in kind of like, yes, there's an injury, but like this week, for example, on the big AEW Dynamite, which we'll get to, there's plenty of people there that can take the places of the people that have been injured. I'm sure you agree with that.
Honestly, Adam, I very much agree. You
Hmm.
know, like this is let me just say the unfortunate injuries really,
Yeah,
really suck for anybody, no doubt.
absolutely.
And that's not what Adam and I is saying here, people.
Hmm.
What we are saying is, you know, when it's kind of like with sports, right? When
Yeah,
a very unfortunate injury happens to your star, okay, next man up,
yeah.
you know, and that's exactly what they're doing. I mean, quite frankly, I would not be mad if the Ops actually do capture the titles on this Wednesday because Joe Hook and Shibata's quite deserving, especially Joe. I mean,
Yeah.
you know, his most recent interview with Chris Van Fleet was amazing.
Yes.
So I really hope that actually happens. Plus, I'm a huge fan of Shibata, you know, so his translations are one of my favorite pieces of the AEW roster.
Yeah.
uh, And you know, the whole thing with Hook, I'm just gonna say it like I think people are just assuming something that we
Mm.
don't even know. I was worried for sure too after when I saw it.
Yeah.
But I don't think Claudio would have done what he would have done afterwards.
No.
So the whole chair thing to the stomach and you know, I don't know. The whole thing with Pac, yeah, it looks like he's gonna be out for quite a while.
Yeah.
Um, boy. Jay White, that one's very, very unfortunate.
Mm.
Um, I really like the fact that Fightful reported that originally he was supposed to be a heel before he got injured, which is what I was expecting.
Yeah.
So when he does come back, make him this very disastrous, bastardous heel, and put the title on him, Tony. I don't care what title it is. Personally, I think it's the AEW World title that he should be seeking when he comes back. So, um, but anyway, I do like your mindset there, Adam, and I want to see somebody else on my television screen.
Mm.
You know, I'm just trying to think of names on top of my head, like this Kevin Knight, for example. He's
Yeah.
impressing me already.
Yeah.
You know,
Absolutely.
they're doing something good with him right now.
Mm.
Continue that with him. You know, you just had the Young Bucks call out, ooh, the Bullet Club War Dogs.
They did.
I know
Yeah.
they're I know they're not on the AEW roster, but I mean, I know it's supposed to be for resurgence, but how about we continue that for you guys in the UK for Forbidden Door?
Thank
I
you.
mean, who wants to see the cage match? I do. And that's just me watching it on television. So
What I will
that
say,
that
Gary,
would be
quickly,
so
sorry to interrupt, and I want to mention
it's
Kevin
okay.
Knight really quickly because what
Hmm.
I really loved about what AEW have done with Kevin Knight is, yes, they put him in that big match on Dynamite this week. They put him in on the pay-per-view as well. Sorry, with Ospreay the week before. What I really liked about what they done with Kevin Knight was they put him in the ring with like the most overstarred, like, you know, obviously Ricochet this week on Dynamite with Mark Briscoe. I mean, obviously Kevin Knight is fantastic. I mean, if you've not seen it, I know that he's got an AEW contract with both, sorry, with a contract with both AEW and New Japan. But like, what I liked about what Tony done with it, initially they put him in a ring with Ospreay as a single. They tore the house down at Dynamite. There's no doubt about that. This week at Dynamite, they put him in the ring, obviously with Speedball, who we know, look, the fans will know and love. They put him in the ring with Osprey and Mark Briscoe, two of the most over stars on AEW right now. And I think that that's like really good thinking from Tony Khan because if you want to introduce this exciting face that we know that those are people that watch, you know, wrestling from independence to will know all about. But if you're an AEW fan that perhaps doesn't watch that, what better way to introduce him to the AEW faithful and to put him in a ring with two of the most over guys in AEW and let him showcase how great that he actually is.
Spot on, dude. Spot on per usual. Well said, Adam.
Kevin Knight, I must admit, I mean, I knew about him before AEW, and I've known about him prior, but he's really, he is, I don't like to use the word blue chipper very often. I use it a lot with NWA because I feel like NWA maybe need that more than the AEWs and the WWEs of this world because they're so out there. But Kevin Knight for me, and hopefully Gary, you agree, the word blue chipper isn't put around a lot, but I'm sure you agree that that word in particular for him is very, very apt, so to speak.
Oh, 110%. Very much agree on that. Um, like, if we're gonna see something magical happen, I mean, heck, I think I'm just now that Rocky Romero has confirmed yesterday that things are going to be happening very, very, very soon with New Japan and AEW.
Yeah.
So, I mean, give me Kushida and Kevin Knight in a tag match against maybe, you know what? Even though again Kevin Knight is signed with both, but let's see those two with Top Flight just in a really fun match. I mean, they are the Jets, right? The
Yep.
the high flyers of AEW. That would be really fun to watch, I think.
Absolutely. No, look, listen, there's a show called Forbidden Door, which many people don't know. Well, maybe they might not know because obviously contractually AEW can't announce a location yet, but we know it's going to be in London and pretty much we know it's going to be at the O2. We know they're about a
Hmm.
week or two away from contractually announcing that due to the fact that WWE were there recently and their contractual situation. But I'm I'm pretty certain we're going to see them at the O2, and I'm looking very much forward to that. Look, when they can announce it, that the proper location, myself and Dave are going to be there. We're hopefully going to sit together, and we're going to hopefully do a little bit of coverage for the channel on it. I'm just hoping that pretty soon. Look, I know contract. I think it's like 3 weeks after the WWE show. I think and they're allowed contractually to announce
I
it.
hate that with WWE. I'm sorry. I hate that so bad.
I think that's ridiculous. And as a fan, as you know, I'm a big WWE fan. Well, listen, I'm a fan of wrestling. It doesn't matter what promotion. I just think that it's quite a childish thing that they do.
Hmm.
Because look, from a UK perspective, we're not as lucky. What I'm saying as lucky as you guys over in the States. But look, AEW, WWE, Ring of Honor, TNA, NWA obviously is United States based, right? We get like the Rev Pros and the Progresses, which I know that you cover very, very well on the Forever the Revolution or for Forever the Revolution Facebook page and on the Elite, which is back. We'll get into that near the end, by the way, and I'm happy that that's back, by the way. But you cover it very, very well on your channel. But for us in the UK, like, I just wish that like it just annoys me as a fan of wrestling in general, not a tribalistic fan of one or the other. It just annoys me that I can't buy my ticket to Forbidden Door yet because I don't, although I know where it's going to be, I can't because they're not allowed to put the tickets on. So I'm sure Dave feels the same way as a big AEW fan. But yeah, look, the more than that, look, we'll talk about that in a bit anyway. It just frustrates me as a wrestling fan, by the way, not to be able to do it. And by the way, those of you that are Revolution Pro Wrestling fans, I have to admit, and Gary, I will tell you why, but I'm not a Revolution Pro Wrestling fan, and I will tell you why very, very soon. But
Okay.
nevertheless, next week for you AEW fans, Mercedes Moné will be at Revolution Pro Wrestling defending at the Doncaster Dome against Kanji for the UK Kanji in the for the Revolution Pro Women's World Championship. That will be a great match, by the way, for those of you that listen. I'm sure that you're a big fan. I'm not sure how the ticket sales are going from Rev Pro. I'll be honest. The last time I checked, they wasn't doing that well, but that's not a hit at Rev Pro. It could be as the ticket prices were a little bit steep, shall we say, for the independent wrestling fan, I might add. But anyway, we'll get into that in a minute. Look, let's talk about the Hurt Syndicate right now. Now for Dynasty, they got a little, shall we say, a little bit of help from MJF. But for the smart wrestling fan out there, now MJF hasn't been accepted into the Hurt Syndicate as of yet, but there has been a word that's been thrown around on AEW television recently, and that word is called Pinnacle. And for those of people that don't know, the Pinnacle was MJF and there was FTR influencing now. And FTR obviously turned on Copeland Dynasty, which we all knew was gonna happen, but it still happened nevertheless, which was great. Do you think that the Pinnacle make a resurgence with MJF and FTR, or is this just another storyline from MJF on his quest to get to the Triple B?
Hmm. Boy, that's a tough two-part question, bro. I, if the Pinnacle comes back, I want it to make sense for sure. I'm
Hmm.
so glad FTR is a heel, by the way.
Yes, me
Um,
too.
I'm glad that I got that prediction right. I'm just waiting for my second half of my prediction to be right. Uh, oh man, you know what? If they can just, if MJF uses, right, the the Hearst Syndicate just to get the title, and I don't think that's going to happen at All In by any
No.
means. I I'm curious to see when it would happen if it does happen, and then MJF just uses them for bait, and next thing you know, yeah, the Pinnacle, boom, there you go. They're the tag team champions. Boom, they just show why they are the best in business, right? For AEW.
Mm.
Um, AEW is really known for dropping those Easter egg hunt eggs, like the little hints that very logical wrestling fans have. Um, so yeah, I could potentially see that happen. Um, I mean, because it feels like the Hurt Syndicate is going to the route of being baby faces because they're just so over right now.
Yeah.
Um, and I love the fact that MJF is a heel. That is his best image for sure. So I think I just answered your two-part question there with just thinking about it there for a moment. So I'm gonna say, yeah. I mean, there's a good chance maybe. I wouldn't hate it at all because nothing against Tully Blanchard, but I feel like he was kind of hogging the spotlight a little bit at that time.
Mm.
Because MJF was still very new to people, and
Yeah.
FTR, granted, they've been in the wrestling business for what feels like eternity, but still, you know. But yeah, three of the fastest heels in AEW. Boy, yeah, FTR really showed that last night. But yeah, I think that would be cool to see.
I must say that I really love the promo and collision. I know we're kind of skipping, and we'll listen. We'll just fluctuate between
It's an
two.
AEW discussion, Adam.
Exactly that. It is an AEW discussion. I did love the FTR explanation for turning on Copeland because it made what I liked about it more than ever, and I think sometimes it gets away with wrestling a little bit, and it's just started to come back a bit. The explanation made sense if you think about it logically, and I think that's the key for me. That like they kind of said, "Hey, well, look, we're kind of wanting Adam Copeland to win the world title, so we sided with him to give him that moment, and it didn't happen, and and from whatever else. So I like that, and we'll get into that a bit more in a minute, but I did want to switch gears and talk about one of my favorite. Listen, the Continental Classic will always be my favorite thing, and I love the fact that AEW do that. I think there's missing in wrestling. I know in the G1 in Japan we get it, but look, then there's the Owen, and for one, I wanted to talk about the women's Owen tournament as well. We'll get into the men's shortly. Timeless Tony Storm on commentary will always hit that. Anytime Tony, you got it because anytime Tony Storm gets the microphone, whether it's a headset or a mic, will always, she will always hit that point. Look, we're coming to AEW this coming Wednesday, and there is a huge, huge match. Wednesday. Which, by the way, for those of you that don't know, I believe, and Gary, forgive me if I'm wrong, is the AEW Dynamite, which supersedes the Nitro shows, if I'm right in what you're saying. If I'm right in what I'm reading,
It does.
it does indeed. From the women's perspective, we get a match which perhaps warrants a pay-per-view match, which is Anfina and Mercedes Moné. We'll talk about the men's Owen in a minute, but Gary Joe, for me, the women's Owen has been absolutely tremendous. I know it's in the early stages and we're getting to the end, but wow, what a tournament AEW have put on, by the way.
Oh my goodness, like when you're seeing in a match, for example, last night with Jamie Hayter and Billy
Yes.
Starks, like Billy just keeps showcasing herself so good. She
Yeah.
kept up really well with Jamie. Um, and this is one match that's going to be very unpredictable for sure. Are we going to get potentially Mercedes and Stat 3, where I think Stat is very deserving of a championship? So
Yeah.
is Jamie Hayter. She has been working her butt off since she returned, especially everything that's happened with her visa and dealing with that. And, you know, then you have Mercedes Monet. I got my opinion on that one for sure. Um, and Athena, I feel damn this should have been actually at All In instead.
Yeah.
So that's why I was kind of surprised that they were both on the same side of the bracket. I could see why they're doing it. Mercedes is very big in Boston, obviously. That's where she's from.
Yeah.
That's going to be the main event, by the way. I'm predicting that right now.
Has to
That
be.
would be the
Has
main
to be.
event. I don't know why. I don't think they're going to do it, but maybe like a time limit draw and they both move on to the finals and maybe we see a triple threat.
Oh,
Because I don't
interesting.
think neither should lose. Um,
Agreed.
hell, maybe
Agreed.
do a time limit draw for Stat and Jamie Hayter while we at it. Let's do a fatal four way. Like, okay, that would be pretty cool to book.
Yeah.
I mean, not back to back finishes like that because that might be a little overkill, but
Mm.
something creative for one of the matches. Um, but my prediction here, as of right now, I think it's going to be Mercedes and Jamie, and I think Jamie will win at
Oh,
Double or Nothing.
interesting. You're going for Jamie.
And then I'm gonna go for Jamie, and I'm speaking my truth as an AEW fan. Like I gotta be real. At the same time, damn, I don't want Seth to lose, man. But Jamie is just a lot of people miss her being as champion. I'm one of them.
Mm.
I don't know, man. All four, well, I'm gonna say all three, and this is nothing against Mercedes. She is a multiple champion right now. You don't need to give her everything, you know.
Agreed.
So absolutely, Athena, Jamie, and Chris really deserves a championship. And plus, Mercedes is already your TBS champion. She should have at least dropped it before going in this tournament, if I can be honest.
Yep.
And that's not taken away from what Mercedes is doing to make this women's division so great right now. So, and I love her for that. But yeah, that's my prediction on that. But yeah, I very much agree. I'm loving this women's Owen over the men.
Well, let's talk about the men's, so to speak. I mean, Jesus, this coming week on Dynamite, you're talking matches that, pay-per-view quality. We've got Will Ospreay against Konosuke Takeshita, which is, jeez, it could grow, that could go anywhere on any pay-per-view. And be amazing. But we do have Hangman Adam Page, and you've mentioned that the wild card that you believe is Jungle Boy Jack Perry, which, yeah, I kind of get. There's been a little bit of, shall we say, a little bit more Jungle Boy here and there, so to speak. And I kind of think that that's where they should go. I don't think introducing someone like Josh Alexander at this stage would make sense right now. I'm not saying that he won't be
Mhm.
the wild card. I think we all know that he's AEW bound at some point, but I mean, looking at that men's and looking at this week's Dynamite, my man, like Will Ospreay, Takeshita, and potentially Hanger and Jack Perry. I mean, Jesus, how can we even
It's,
top that this week on Dynamite, man?
I mean, the Dynamite that I just went to a couple weeks ago was a really good show, but this one here, this is what I love about Tony Khan, how he's running things. People may have their opinions on him, but look what he does. He gives you a stacked show every single week.
He does.
Who wouldn't want to see Takeshita and Will Ospreay? Who wouldn't want to see Mercedes and Athena? Uh, just the other matches that we got going on. We have, I think it was already announced. We got FTR and is it FTR? I don't remember, but there's the Collision the day after live.
Yes.
So back to back
Which,
AEW
by the
shows on.
way, sorry, Gary, which I think makes perfect sense because obviously, look, we know what's coming up this weekend on the WWE side, and the fact that Tony Khan has moved Collision, I think, is a perfect uh, way of thinking, really, isn't it?
I will counter and say, Adam Cousins, this is why you're the greatest, man. The enthusiasm right there is what I like to hear. You and I have talked about this behind the scenes, and
Yeah,
that is when WWE puts a show like a pay per view the same night
yeah,
as AEW, it distracts the wrestling community to not come to like they don't come together, but when they do, they're gonna throw shade at each other. They're gonna
yeah.
shit on a promotion. I don't want distractions. Okay, I want to enjoy a collision where I'm not having people flood my inbox saying, "Well, your show's stupid because you can't compete with a what whatever the match may be, right?"
Yeah.
So, and I think this is AEW's way of being like, listen, again, you said it earlier. Tony listens to the voices of these AEW fans. He
Yeah.
listens to the feedback, and that's what I admire most about him. Um, I know at first, originally, I was like, but TNA, you know, but TNA, if it was like a live TNA show, I'm like, oh man, I can't believe they're doing that. But TNA is taped this week. It's not.
Yeah,
But
apart from
my
Unbreakable,
point,
which is live. Yeah, Unbreakable is live this week, but they do have a taped impact beforehand. Yeah.
yeah. So I mean, so technically, it's not really stealing away
No.
from TNA because if that was like a live TNA show, like, oh, I don't know, but still, there's so like it's very tough to actually put that on a date that you can really make that work. Like,
It's a
because I
difficult
don't
week
think
in
Tony wants
general.
to do with
Yeah.
right, exactly. So either way, wrestling is just no matter what day of the week, you got your Raw, you got your NXT Tuesday, then you got your Dynamite Wednesday, then you got TNA that day, and then you got SmackDown. Yeah, just so much wrestling throughout the week. But
Yeah.
yes, I very much agree that I love the fact that this is on a Thursday. So, and I'm curious to know what that card's going to be as well. Um, so for anybody that's going to be attending this Wednesday at Boston, enjoy.
Oh,
I mean,
definitely.
I know they've been to Boston before for shows, but the MGM Fenway, I will say that venue is amazing. I think a lot of people are going to be impressed. Thing about Boston, it's known for history, so it kind of has like the historic look to it, kind of like you're sitting in the, I don't know. Yeah, I'm going to be standing outside of the White House, and yeah, it feels like I'm going to be living in 1776 because how historic it looks. So, a little
Um,
bit of a nerd comment there for how much I like history, but all right.
hey, listen, there's nothing wrong with liking history, my man. Let's just move on quickly. The learning tree on Dynamite now. This has caused a little bit of a stir. I, my opinion is it caused more of a stir because of what Jericho said prior to Dynamite. So for
Yeah.
those of you that don't know, Jericho had an interview and he was asked about the WWE and he did say that, well, who wouldn't want to talk to the WWE at this point? And So Jericho, I believe the contract is up nearer the end of the year, so I don't think there's anything in particular to worry about right about. Well, I'm not saying worry, but I think a lot of it gets dragged into, you know, a lot of it takes out of context as to what's actually happening. So for those of you that don't know, Fozzy have a tour going on over these next few weeks, and there is Wednesdays free in those tour dates that Jericho could potentially return to Dynamite. He did leave the learning tree, kind of said that, look, well, he just kind of left, shall we say. But he did leave the door open. A lot of people took that out of context because the timing of when the interview comes out to when this happens. People put two and two together, come up with 350 million, and think that he's returning to WWE contractually. I think until the end of the year that it is pretty much Jericho and
Oh,
AEW. But what I would say is for those of you that wanted Jericho out of the way, myself included, I will hold my hands up and say, I felt as if it was the right time. Maybe now is the right time for him to take a break from AEW a little bit. But Gary, look, I think that people have kind of put two and two together and come up with 24,000 in this case.
I just think it's funny when people see something, they instantly get into these. It's okay if you want to be going into the fields of, having a theory, that's
Mm,
okay.
yeah,
But publicly say things are just another thing. Like,
yeah.
I mean, I've seen comments too, man. Um, Now, I actually want to touch up on that too about his contract status. So
Mm,
I even said something because I read something like this was like last August, maybe like last September. I posted on my
yeah,
page. So shout out to Fightful Select. They actually corrected me saying that was not true. So I thank them for that. So we don't
mm,
know when his contract is up
yeah,
necessarily.
yeah.
And Adam, I hope you know this is nothing against you, man, for saying what you
Right.
want to say
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
about his contract status. Um,
Neither do I. I
I
mean,
just,
yeah.
I mean, Abaddon said something on my comment threads. I will share you after the live. Very
Mm,
interesting.
mm,
Dave Meltzer, really, dude. Anyway, so, but enough about the contract status. So the whole thing with Jericho, I very much agree.
mm.
I've been wanting him to take a break for a while as well. Brian
Yeah,
Keith and Big Bill really deserve some, highlighted momentum to their potential
yeah,
tag team championship run, which again, I don't think that's going to happen either, but I like the potential with Brian Keith and Big Bill, especially Big Bill is probably
yeah,
one of your most over with the international crowds, right?
yeah.
Um, so we uh we shall see, but yeah, I can't speak for Jericho, but I Jericho is just one of those people that really likes to generate buzz, right?
Absolutely.
Jericho has been generating buzz with wrestling for years.
Mm,
Um, so because he asked a question, that doesn't necessarily mean he's going to,
exactly that.
go into the other land. So
Mm.
I just think people are overthinking it. So yeah, they got their wish. You got Chris Jericho taking a break for a while. Plus, the guy is almost 60 years old. Like, I'm
Exactly.
just saying, come on now. Uh,
Exactly that, man. Exactly. Look, listen, he's touring with Fozzy. We know there's Wednesdays open in those dates. Yeah, I agree, man. Like, I think there's a lot of people, as I said before, people putting two and two together and coming up with 24,000. Does he end up going back to W? I don't know. And quite frankly, I don't care if he does, great. If he doesn't, great. It's one of those things, right? He joined
Same.
AEW. And one of the questions that I would love to ask Tony Khan was the importance of that acquisition of Chris Jericho. Because, when AEW was new to the party, and this is not a hit at like the Cody or the Young Bucks or Kenny Omega, but like if I remember rightly, that Tony Khan even said that like they were trying to bring back the old WCW fans that perhaps come out of wrestling when WCW was purchased from WWE, and the fact that the name of Chris Jericho would resonate with those particular fans at the time was massively important for AEW. So the signing of Chris Jericho was massive. Whatever me, you, or anybody else think of him now is irrelevant because, I'm sure you would agree, Gary, that the acquisition of Chris Jericho at the time of the AEW inception 6 years ago was a monumental signing for AEW back then.
Oh, dude, I totally agree. Because I remember when again, this is how I got introduced to AW was the
Mm.
internet and Cody Rhodes and the Young Bucks and founder Tony Khan is going to create a wrestling show conference on YouTube on January 1st. I was like, huh, okay, let's see what's about. And one of those first faces was Chris Jericho. I was like,
Yeah.
what? Like, so it really made me interested. Like, obviously, like I've been a Jericho fan since he was, gosh, I want to say probably in ECW and then on to WCW, and here he is with AEW. It's truly remarkable, you know, for how he got introduced with AEW because again, AEW loves to do the surprise and shock factor. It's been like that since their existence. So, but yeah, I very much agree, and I think that's where it got a lot of people to turn their heads to AEW was because of Chris Jericho. Chris Jericho is granted people may have their opinions on him, but deep down inside they love Chris Jericho. I mean,
Yeah.
he created a faction that was easily one of my favorites, and that was the original Inner Circle. Like,
Yeah.
how can you not love that? Like Vanguard 1, 2, like that little snippet with Matt Hardy was perfect during the pandemic. Just everything that you love about the Inner Circle. They were so great to watch.
Yeah, that really
So,
was.
but yeah.
I loved it. As much as I think it's about the right time for Jericho to take a break, I still can't, anyone that the inner circle, and you look at the careers. I mean, I look at Santana right now killing it in TNA as well, but like,
Hmm.
Ortiz, I'm not quite sure what his status is with Ortiz, but like, you look at the Santanas and a few others of this world, and you kind of think, well, the fact that you're in that big group in AEW that was the very first Dynamite, if I'm not mistaken, at the end of it was the Inner Circle. So
Yeah, that is true.
without that, there really isn't a lot. But anyway, let's just move on from Jericho. Look, I want to talk a bit more about the women's division again. Look, Megan Bayne. I kind of said this on my Dynasty review. I kind of felt that like her and Tony Storm was kind of right match, wrong time. I feel as if Megan Bayne should have perhaps been the women's champion, but I kind of get why it wasn't done at Dynasty. Long story, Tony Storm just winning the championship, whatnot. Megan Bayne this week on Collision, winning a kind of a handicap match for want of a better phrase, but. Man, every week Megan Bayne now, and I said this to you last time we spoke that she was money, but she is everything that Tony Khan. When you look at perhaps maybe like a Jade Cargill, for want of a better phrase, Jade Cargill in AEW was immense. She had that big long run as champion. Yes, fair enough. She's left and gone to WWE. Megan Bayne is the Jade Cargill replacement. For me personally in AEW, she's just everything that you would want in a wrestler, and I just think it's perhaps a kind of if not when she dominates that division in AEW.
I'm going to be very biased when it comes to Megan Bayne. I will say that. She shared my picture from Dynamite
She
on her
did.
Instagram.
Yep.
I shared something with her the other day. I saw that she viewed the picture, well, not picture, but post that I shared of her. Um, Megan has the tools to be something very special in AEW.
Mm.
She really, really does. She has the devastating looks. She has the wrestling ability. When she starts talking on the mic, which people are going to be like, well, why doesn't she talk? Well, neither did somebody else, and he perhaps was one of your most dominant champions that
Yeah.
WWE saw at that time.
Mm.
You know who I'm talking about.
Yeah.
So Megan is something very special, dude. I'm very excited for her to get this great push. I hope it doesn't really sizzle her momentum, like, because not sizzle, but cool down her momentum is what I meant
Yeah.
to say. Um, I just hope they don't do that because, man, she kept up really, really well with Tony. At first, I was like, oh, come on, man, it should have been Megan, but because she was just coming off so good. But then I thought about it again because, again, I like to think logical when you think about these things with the decisions when it comes to booking it in wrestling. Look what Megan did beforehand. She pinned Tony Storm twice,
Yeah.
leading up to the pay per view. Megan, I will say in person, she is scary. Okay. She is just, she's exactly at advertised, dude. Like literally, I want to say she's at least 6 foot. She's just, she is certainly your Megasis. Now bow down to Megan because she is going to be a very promising piece to the women's roster and not exactly the match I hoped for last night on Collision, but who cares? I mean, anything and any time that I see Megan on TV now, I'm happy. So, and I think she's getting really over right now. She was pretty over last night in that Springfield, Massachusetts crowd. So, plus she's originally from Connecticut, so people are gonna love their northeastern wrestlers. So,
Definitely. Megan Bain is, I think I said this before, but she is certainly money. Quickly before we start wrapping up, I wanted to just quickly touch on Anthony Bowen's making his return, so to speak. So Max Caster's open challenges don't seem to be going well well for him at the minute. I think that's a fair assumption. Um, where do you see this between the two? I mean, I always thought Caster was always kind of a little bit ahead of Bowens, maybe. I don't know if that's controversial, I don't know, but where do you see the future between these two guys?
man, I wish I knew the answer to that. That I don't know. Um, like literally within seconds, I knew I couldn't answer that. But you know what? This one makes you great, man, because you were stumping the AEW All Elite Bearded Genius, is what I like to call myself. I'm not a genius at the moment. Hold on, let me put my other hat
You
on.
got the all elite
Here we go.
bearded genius on your slogan, my man. That's why I'm asking you the question.
I'm no genius on this one, dude. I don't know, and that's great. I'd rather see an unpredictable run with these two. Caster, I can't say it enough. Ever since he done his little, he's not getting jobbed, in my opinion.
No.
I think Caster is just spinning his role, being like, "Listen, I'm a prick, and if you don't like me, well, guess what? Now here comes the hero." I'm glad that was Bowens at Dynasty.
Yeah, me too.
I'm very happy for that. So,
Yeah,
he looked good. His new theme is awesome. I made a post about him actually
you
before
did.
coming on live today. He's the only wrestler that I met 3 times. So, and if you guys get him at Forbidden Door for like a meet and greet or something, I highly recommend you guys do. Like one thing that I said to Bowens when I met at this most recent show. After the picture, I looked at him. I'm like, "So how's LA?" He's like, "Oh, it's going well, but I have never heard somebody that would actually know something like that. Thank you." I'm like, "I pay attention, man. I love AEW." So he was very impressed. But yeah, Bowens though, I think when the time is right, go for the TNT title. Honestly, that would be great. I don't ever see the Acclaimed getting back together, unless something happens a couple of years from now. But I just love what they're doing with these two already. Um, I originally was also predicting All In for these two to go at it, but they already went at it. So I don't know. I mean, for once, I am really stumped, man. I don't know.
Be interesting. It will be interesting to see as we move closer to all in. Last 2 points before we start wrapping up. Look, I wanted to just quickly touch on the Adam Copeland situation with FTR. I know he mentioned it
Oh, yes.
very, very briefly. FTR looked very good in explaining their reasons, which I thought was great, by the way. But I wanted to ask you this. As we move towards All In, are we going to get FTR versus Copeland and Christian at All In, do you think?
I don't see my imaginary watch. There we go. My imaginary watch. The time is ticking. Yes, it's gonna happen. Um, Now, a lot of people are going to be like, well, that doesn't make sense because Christian's been doing this. But listen, this is how much Adam and I, or any AEW fan that really pays attention to AEW unconditionally. What is it that Adam Copeland's kid wanted? He wanted Adam, not cousins, but Adam Copeland, close enough, um, to tag again with his Uncle Jay, Christian.
He did.
It feels like Adam Copeland is having some direction of his booking. I'm not saying it's creative freedom. I'm just saying like Tony is giving him some of the, ability to write some of his stuff. So I think we're really going to get that, and I think for sure that's going to happen at All In. That's why I like your theory potentially with the Pinnacle, with FTR getting those tag team titles beforehand. Um, I mean, I would like to see potentially one more run
They're not
with
going to beat the
Copeland,
Hurt
or
Syndicate, though, right?
I don't think so.
Good.
I don't see that. And plus, Bobby Lashley's from that Dallas area. He will be wicked over at all in. So, um, yeah, I would love to see an Engine Christian run, one more time. I've been a wrestling geek slash nerd for 29 years, almost 30 years next summer. I've been a big Edge and Christian fan since 2000, 2001 maybe.
Yeah.
So for the last 24, 25 years, I'm like, this would really fulfill everybody's expectations. I really feel that. So, and gosh, can you just imagine the promos though? Like, I could see the old school where, oh, look, hey, let's have a kazoo, where they're just going to be like,
Literally.
yeah,
Yeah. I can
yeah,
imagine him trying to
cash
play the
sucks.
kazoo to his feet. I can imagine him trying to play the kazoo to the FTR theme.
Yeah, that would be gold, dude. And I think that's where people will love it. So it's not going to be, you're going to get the key elements of a very serious, intense feud, but then you're going
Yeah,
to have some of the comedy with that Edge and Christian again, I think. Or Copeland and Christian, or
exactly.
Hope and Father.
Let's just hope they don't bring guns into the equation, right?
Yeah, let's not have that.
Let's definitely not. Last thing before we start wrapping up. Look, the men's look, Continental Classic is well underway as well. We've touched upon obviously Hanger versus the wild card, Osprey against Takeshita, and I know everybody wants Osprey at All In this year. I'm kind. Listen, I'm biased because I know that next year it's back at Wembley, and I want Osprey to have his moment at Wembley and to win, to win the World Heavyweight Championship at Wembley. I think. I'm not saying would mean more to him than winning it at All In this year. I'd be incorrect. I just think hometown advantage and whatever, but with you, how do you see this playing out? Do you see Osprey winning it and then winning the championship at All In? Or do you think perhaps, or do you somewhat agree with me that him winning the world title in his backyard may mean more to him personally than winning it in Texas, for argument's sake?
This is a very, very good question. I think a lot of people are wondering the same thing. Is Will going to be the guy for sure? Or maybe it really should be Adam Page or,
Yep.
but I think it's going to be Adam Page and Swerve versus the Young Bucks at All In, quite frankly. Um,
Yep.
the reason why I think Will is deserving of this championship this year, he is seriously, if he's not the most over on this entire men roster, I don't know what I'm watching. He's gets the hottest reaction, he gets the
Yeah.
biggest pops. I mean, I'm not gonna lie to you, dude. Like a lot of people when I was with my VIP experience, they were so hoping Will was there. A
Yeah.
lot of people love Will right now. And think about it this way: what happens after All In? They're going to the UK anyway for Forbidden Door. So Will's going to be technically in his homeland um, to, potentially, defend his title. Um, Now, again, All In 2026 is not for the next year and a half. So maybe Will can have a significant run in maybe a dream match at All In at Wembley. Or if he loses the title beforehand, if he in fact does win the title, and then maybe he just goes for it again. I just feel that either way would be a really good moment for Will. I mean, if maybe they will do it Forbidden, no, that wouldn't make sense. I don't know. Again, you stumped me, damn it. So I just got the feeling, man, it needs to happen this year. Because what would be like who would be Will's opponent at All In if that were the case, if he would lose?
Yeah.
You know? That makes you wonder too. And this is the good thing about these really unpredictable tournaments because once him or her loses, what's next? It's like I'm already booking ahead for Harley Cameron. She may have lost, but she's wicked over. But what's next for Harley?
True.
You know,
Yeah.
if Stat loses, she needs to be on that card for All In. If Jamie Hayter loses, she deserves to be on the card too. It's going to be very, very interesting for All In Texas. And don't forget, people, 3 o'clock. Yes, we're at start time, so you guys in the UK will be joining at 8 o'clock this year. Not super late.
Thank Christ for that.
I'm glad that I found this out because I'm attending to that show. So yeah, I don't want to be there like a couple hours late. Then I'll be like, nice
Exactly
comment,
that.
Adam.
Exactly that. Well
Thank you.
done. Thank fuck for Saturday night's main event, right? For the guys in the UK. Anyway, look, it's been another big week in AEW. I just wanted to touch on this last thing before we sign off, Gary. But look, this
Mhm.
week's Dynamite does indeed beat the Nitro. The amount of weeks the Nitro was on air, and I think that like it's easy to forget about that, but that is such a massive thing for AEW. Like being alternate. Let's get this right. It's an alternate, right, to WWE. It's
Mhm.
necessarily in competition with them. It's an alternate product. You like it, you like it. If you don't, you don't. That's up that people can make their own assumptions, right? I like both. Very happily say I'm on the fence every week. If I don't like something in WWE, I will say it. If I don't like something in AEW, I will say it. That's my opinion. I'm not saying my opinion is agreed to even by your good self, Gary. But look, what we both can agree on is that this week's Dynamite is absolutely proof that if anyone had any doubts or anyone likes to shit on the product, AEW is not only the second longest running wrestling program on, well, maybe TNA, maybe not, but the second running longest weekly episodic programming on wrestling on TNT or TBS at least. But the more importantly than that, it is here to stay.
And I love those last couple words, here to stay, because when AEW got introduced, a lot of people were excited about it, and now they just feel because another company is doing good things, why can't another company do good things either? You know? And when when I think about that, I anybody can tell you the reason why I got into wrestling was because of WCW.
Mm.
After when they went out of business, I seriously believe this to this day. It was the death of professional wrestling because there was only one company that was just flourishing bigger and bigger and bigger heights than ever before. And that's not taken away from TNA when they got their deal with Spike TV or anything, but it's just to have somebody to be on this level like AEW is truly remarkable. This is a great achievement in my opinion. And I know people are gonna go on Twitter world and say whatever they want, but again, you don't have to necessarily say this is whatever you feel, but this is a great accomplishment for wrestling, not just AEW. I love this so much for them. Um, like these are the same people that are like, oh yeah, see, they're not going to get a TV deal signed. They're not going to get this. They're not going to get that. Well, when this deal comes up here in the next few years, you're going to say differently because will be earning almost $1 billion of revenue and profit and all this good stuff. But no, man, this is a great time for AEW. I'm very excited to see that show on Wednesday,
Yeah.
and I like the fact that they kind of brought up the achievement because this is what I love about AEW. They really don't ignore the facts. They don't ignore history, and I think that's amazing. You know, I mean, granted, there is companies out there too that does talk about the history, but
Mm.
when you're getting a weekly live television show that has millions of access around the world, it's it's great. I mean, I already have something planned. I already have a creation in mind. Yeah, go on my
Okay,
page if
you
you want
having
to
a
check that
creation
out.
in plan, my man, I mean, Jesus,
I do.
I didn't know.
Confetti is falling as we speak. I'm celebrating a victory. I mean, you remember the last creation that I made that actually included the Nitro theme song,
You did.
and then the little thing from Eric Bischoff on the bottom. But Eric Bischoff said, "But I'm not going to include that." But wow, a lot of people were just fuming on my page. I'm like, I'm just having fun. Why can't I? Why can we have fun?
As you should. As you should.
So, the amount of hate that I got on that, I'm like, why does this bother you?
Mate,
It's just,
listen. I think it's ridiculous. As I hate the tribalism shit, and I hate all of that. I don't
yeah.
understand why we're in this. But let's just move on. I mean, a massive congratulations to AEW this coming Wednesday. As we said, it becomes, I believe. I mean, I don't know about TNA Impact. I can't. But in terms of like, well, actually, I do know a TNA Impact. But in terms of what they're doing at AEW is great. And this coming Wednesday, I'm going to read, for what they've got coming up. I mean, we've got Anfina, we've got against Mercedes Monet, we've got Hanger against the wild card, which we both believe to be Jack Perry. It could be Josh
Mm,
Alexander. We don't know. We don't know.
I
That's
say, I say David Robinson. I mean,
I
there's a good
mean,
chance there.
Dave, I mean, if you want to jump on board and head off to AEW this coming Wednesday, that's up to you. I would look forward to seeing you. If you did, we've got Osprey against Takeshita. We've got obviously Moxley filling in for Pac in the Trios Championship against Samoa Joe, Hook, and Shibata, which will be a great match. I'm sure we're going to have more to do. I think if I'm right, I think the Hurt Syndicate against the Gates of Agony. I think if I'm right, or something called.
Yeah, which is interesting, but it's all right. I mean, that should be a meat slapper, is what we like to call
Oh, we love meat slappers, right? We love it.
it.
Yeah, there's nothing that we don't love more. But I mean, in terms of shows, it's going to be a great show. But Gary, look, before we start, before we go here, what have you got coming up? You got so you. By the way, Cruising with Kayfabe. Look, there's a Twitter poll running. I know that Cruising with Kayfabe have already won the
Yeah,
first
I
round
saw
match. By the
that.
way, we're coming up as well. We're going to be on that. We're going to be on that show as well. There's a little like a fun thing that's gone Twitter with it's going to say the best podcasts or whatever. We're going to be in it as well. Cruising and Kayfabe won their first match. Don't forget to vote for us when we're on there. But what's coming up, Gary, on your channel? I'm always intrigued to know what you've got on the horizon.
Well, here's the thing. I'm going to be voting for Dave Robinson and Adam Cousins and Emily and Mongo. So it's going to be a tough. It's going to be a draw for me. Uh, the projects I got coming up, man, it's going to be something great. And as we touched up on a couple times here, yes, it is officially back. Honor the Elite. Um, the
Get
name
it.
change on the Facebook page is going to be official here very soon. I'm just, for some reason, Facebook said I have 21 days for it to be confirmed on the name
No.
change. Uh, but it will be there. I do got Instagram up and loading again,
Followed you, by the
which you
way.
did.
Follow back.
I'm gonna follow back to the people that I
Thank
actually
you.
affiliate with, and you'll be one of them for sure, bro.
I
If
followed
that
you as
doesn't
hitting the
happen, that's a problem.
turnbuckle, and I'm following you as legitimately my name as well. So you're gonna have two new followers on that. So
Sweet deal. Um, I'm very excited for that, man. Like I'm gonna be doing double duty, but you know what? This is what I love to do, and that's to get. And look at that. There we go. Started following you. Thank you, sir. Uh, I will for sure accept those. So it looks like a pending approval is a interview that I just
Brilliant.
got that I'm very excited for.
Excellent.
It's been in the works for the last 3 weeks. I mean, enjoy once it's announced. And the men's roundtable or the men's elite corner is what I like to call it will be coming live to you today on Facebook
Brilliant.
with my good friends Danny and Angel. Last thing I want to touch up on, I've been meaning to say this. Congratulations to Jill and Julia Wild. So happy for them. They just got their record label signed. A record is being discussed for it to be released, and they're hoping some tour dates for this coming fall. They have been speaking to a few venues. The interview with them has been rescheduled for May 31st. Unfortunately, it will not be live, but that's okay. It will be uploaded on the, I guess, Honor the Elite YouTube channel now. But yeah, this partnership means so much to me when it comes to the Pretty Wild. They're very special, very, very amazing in the music industry. So, but yeah, that's all I really wanted to touch upon. The Elite collaboration is one of my favorite days of the week. So, guys, don't give me a follow, but this guy here is the reason why this magic happens each and every weekend. So, and for your viewing pleasure for all things wrestling. I kind of stole Adam's thunder there, so I'm going to shut up.
Well, I would appreciate a follow to us as well, but obviously, listen, go to Facebook, go to Instagram, follow FTR, follow Revolution on the Elite as well as Cruising with Kayfabe. We can't forget those guys. Great
Oh,
Mongo
yes.
and his wife. So please go to CWK Podcast on X, I believe is the handle. Look, coming up this week. I mean, tomorrow. Oh, I'll say tomorrow. It could fall on the same day as this goes out. Jonathan Coachman follow comes on the channel. We had a great interview with the coach, so to speak. That is interesting to say the least. So that will be coming up probably on the same day as this. That this go no, maybe I'll put this out today. Maybe I'll grace you with another video today. But yeah, go and follow us. Yeah, Jonathan Coachman comes out this coming week, this tomorrow, Monday or the 14th anyway of April. Big shout out to TNA for giving us Leon Slater as well. That interview's already dropped
Oh,
this week.
I can't wait to see that dude. I was so happy when
It's
I
there,
saw
man. It's
that.
there. Go and watch it. It's already there. It's already
I know
there.
I was browsing on YouTube the other day.
No, I mean, listen, TNA, we wouldn't be where we are without TNA. We wouldn't be out where we are with Ignite as well. Ignite Wrestling over here in the UK with our championship and everything else that they do for us. Ignite are forever in our hearts. A big thanks to Ignite as well. But yeah, Leon Slater's there. TNA interviews will continue. We're so privileged to have TNA on board, so we can't thank TNA enough for giving us the UK media stuff. So keep a lookout for that. John, as I say, Jonathan Coachman drops this week as well. But Gary, it's always great to talk AEW with you. The passion, the everything that you do for TNA on your channel, so TNA, everything that you do for AEW, it on your channel. Look, I mean, I know that the AEW are looking at you, and I hope that, for whatever, that they really take what you do. Well, I hope they don't take what you do for granted, because what you do for AEW is incredible. Everything that everyone on your fan page, everyone that, as I say, Cruising with Kayfabe as well, everything that you do for AEW is just incredible. And I hope that you get the recognition that you thoroughly deserve from AEW, not just from AEW, from the wrestling community. I know the shit that you get and everything like that, but everything that you do, especially for AEW, for me personally, doesn't go unnoticed, and I hope that for everybody else doesn't go unnoticed as well.
I mean, is it crazy that I love the hate that I get? It's just because, you know what? It's all right. It's okay because I feel like, you're subjective to an opinion, but it's hearing the same thing over and over and over again. Um, and there's some pages on Twitter as well that really is fond of me for how much they absolutely love to throw hate at me for no reason. But that's okay because you know what? It gets my page talking. It's free publicity. I will take it. Um, if
Exactly.
this was me back when I had 69,000 plus followers on the page that got hacked, I would be like kind of just bummed out about it because I would let people get to the best of me. But I've grown from that, So, and thanks so much for the kind words, man. I absolutely love AEW, as a lot of people know, but without AEW, I don't think I would be a success content creator. Um, one last thing I want to touch up on too. It's like when I got to meet Swerve, well, not me, but kind of bumping into him a couple
Yeah.
weeks ago, and and I told him, I said, hey, thank you very much, but the tweets said you have shared, not tweets, but
Yeah, yeah.
your stories on Instagram, and literally Swerve was like, "Oh, so you're the mastermind behind it all. It's great to meet the face." I'm like, so it was really cool. He's just shared a lot of my stuff on his Instagram stories, and it's little things like that, man, that really means a lot to me. And this is why I love this company. So
As they should, and as they should give you props for whatever you do. So don't forget to follow FTR. Now you're on Instagram now, like FTR, Follow the Revolution, the same as Facebook. I know Honor the Elite's going to come back, so we'll have that for another day. But follow. Also follow Cruising with Kayfabe, as I said, CWK podcast, whether that's on X, whether that's on Instagram or whatnot. And follow what. Hey, listen, if you're in the following mood, follow us too. HTT Buckle on X, HTT Buckle on YouTube, hitting the Turnbuckle Podcast on all other social media platforms. We'll be back on. Actually, this is going to be an interesting one. Next Sunday is Easter Sunday over here in the UK. We'll be eating our chocolate Easter eggs, but I will be joining, hopefully, yourself, Gary, as well, to discuss more AEW stuff this time next week. Follow him.
count me in. I don't have much going on.
Can I have my Easter egg live on the show?
Do you like what is it, the Carbonet Easter eggs, like the chocolate ones there?
Mate, I'll be having it's fucking chocolate, mate. It's mine.
What about what does that include Rachel and your kid too, or
Well, they'll be having eggs as well. Listen, mate, you don't look like me without even fucking chocolate, right? So, like, I'll be having my chocolate Easter egg live on the show next Sunday, if you will allow me to. But guys, like I said, follow FTR, follow the Revolution on Instagram, on Facebook, follow us at HTT Buckle on Twitter and X and wherever else. Follow Cruising with Kayfabe at cwkpodcast.com. We'll be back next week to talk more AEW. But for Gary Joe, this has been your host, Adam Cousins, and you've been watching, and thank you for watching the Hitting the Turnbuckle podcast. And until next week, everybody, for some more AEW, stay elite, stay safe.